Freedom Front Plus President Corne Mulder says that President Cyril Ramaphosa appears to be strictly following the letter of the Constitution in his efforts to appoint a new U.S. ambassador to succeed Ibrahim Rasool. Mulder has accused Ramaphosa of disregarding the spirit of cooperation within the government of national unity. He now joins us to have this conversation. Corne, a very good morning to you. Thank you so much for making time for us this morning.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Okay, let's start off with foreign relations then. When it comes to this issue with regards to the ambassador and also how this tension between South Africa and the United States is being handled, what's your issue around how the government of national unity, being led by the president of the country, is leading this particular conversation, or efforts at least?
Well, I think the important thing is that this whole issue deals with our international relations and our international policy in terms of where does the South African government position themselves. And I think we must all realize that for 30 years, the ANC was the only party involved in government in South Africa, and they are used to the fact that they are in charge of international relations and our foreign policy. But as far as I'm concerned, that has now changed. Because of the government of national unity, we have to discuss this and to see where do we position ourselves in terms of international relations. Now, the problem is that during the discussions, it seems that when the government of national unity came into being, the ANC just insisted on the fact that they occupy those positions in terms of international relations, and that is not being discussed. Now, technically, it is correct that the president does have the authority in terms of the Constitution. The Constitution says he is responsible for the appointment of ambassadors. That's the responsibility. But we are of the view that we should once again visit the whole issue in terms of international relations, and that it cannot be the exclusive domain of one political party itself.
Yeah, I went through the statement of intent that was signed by the various political parties and specifically focusing on the area around foreign policy. I just quickly want to read it to you. It says that foreign policy based on human rights, constitutionalism, national interest, solidarity, peaceful resolution of conflicts to achieve the Africa Agenda 2063, South to South, North to South, and African cooperation, multilateralism, and a just and peaceful and equitable world. For me, this is consistent with the foreign policy that the ANC has the foreign policy that the ANC has been following since the dawn of our democracy. What's your understanding and reading of that particular clause in the statement of intent?
Well, technically, those are a number of terms, and each one of them has got a different meaning, perhaps depending on your interpretation of that. For example, the national interest. We may find that we differ in terms of what we perceive to be the national interest. The question of multinational, connections in terms of
multilateralism, yeah.
Exactly. So we may find that we differ in terms of the interpretation of those things. And you're correct, the ANC did interpret that for 30 years in terms of their interpretation. But I think the mistake is that the whole idea of international relations should be something that should be discussed. Even if we let that go by, the fact of the matter is surely the president should perhaps consult the other political parties before making such an important appointment, specifically given the current situation between the relations between Pretoria and Washington.
Is it the Freedom Front Plus's view that, yes, we understand the powers of the president in relation to deployment of ambassadors, that before an ambassador is appointed, irrespective of whether it is ambassador to the United States of America or any other country for that matter, that individual or that proposal should first go through the government of national unity?
I think one should be realistic in the sense that one should not expect that each and every appointment made should first be discussed and consensus reached. I think we don't need to go there. But quite obviously, at the moment, because of the strained relations between Pretoria and Washington, we all understand that this is a very sensitive issue and a sensitive topic at this stage. And when you do appointments, there are some of these appointments that are very, very important. And for example, the appointment of an ambassador to Washington should be a very vital, focused appointment from South Africa's point of view. The United States is our second largest trading partner. We are dealing with the strongest economy. We are dealing with the strongest military country in the world. And because of the strained relations, I think it should be just a basic thing that the president do consult other political parties. If we do have an agreement in terms of international relations, it should not be a problem. But to come now and to say, well, I don't need to consult, I don't think that sends the correct message, and I think it's going to restrain further some of the relationships within the government of national unity.
Has this matter been taken to the clearing of house mechanism?
Not yet, no, because the president's utterance in terms of that he doesn't have to consult anybody else was a sideline comment during the week, and obviously we will need to take that further then.
All right. Let's then quickly look at, speaking about the clearinghouse mechanism, another issue that is quite topical currently is the deadline that's looming for the budget that needs to be voted on next month. As the Freedom Front Plus, where do you stand currently following consultation that has taken place and following that meeting that was chaired by the president, by the deputy president of the country?
Well, the fact of the matter is that there are all kinds of processes going on at the moment in terms of the parliamentary process as well, where the financial committee or the finance committee are looking at the budget, etc., because our first hurdle is next week, Wednesday, on the 2nd, when we need to adopt the fiscal framework. We made it very clear from the beginning that we are not in favor of any tax increases, be that VAT, be that personal income tax, be that the fuel levy. We really believe that our electorate out there, the people out there, are absolutely overburdened in terms of having to pay taxes all along, and that the answer should be somewhere else. The answer should be to look into where can we cut in terms of the budget and where can we cut spending specifically. So we haven't changed our stance in that regard. We will not support a budget that increases taxes. That is not the way that should be done, and we still believe that we should not have this increase in VAT. So I don't think we have made all that much progress at this stage, but we still do have time, and we will continue to engage each other.
Yeah. Also considering that the Freedom Front Plus, of course, with your former leader, has a member in the National Executive. If the ANC, yes, and they're having a meeting later on this weekend, are able to persuade other political parties outside of the Government of National Unity to vote in favour of this budget, would the Freedom Front Plus remain members of the Government of National Unity? And I'm also asking this on the basis of how do you stay inside a Government of National Unity, implement its policies, where the budget flowing to implement those policies are budget that you didn't support?
Absolutely. That's an excellent question. You're absolutely spot on. We have said from the beginning that we really feel very strongly in terms of support of the Government of National Unity, and that we want to be part of that because we feel that is absolutely the right way to go. And if you look at that declaration of intent, the emphasis there is on economic growth and job creation. That is where we should be focusing. But in order to achieve that, we need the right budget, and we need to take the necessary financial steps to make that possible. And our concern is that this budget is not going to do that. Now, the question that you ask is very relevant because we've said from the beginning, from time to time, we will have to opt and look at our different options and see what and reevaluate our participation. And that goes, I think, for other parties as well. But let me speak on behalf of Freedom Front Plus itself. Now, we have seen two examples recently in local government elections where exactly the same kind of thing happened, and the budget were then adopted outside of the coalition with the help of a different political party. And in both instances, that caused the collapse of those coalition governments on the local level. The first one was in Oudtshoorn in the Western Cape. The other one was in Langeberg, also in the Western Cape, where the coalition partners did not agree on the budget. And the larger party then went and found some support for their budget from other parties outside the coalition, and that caused the collapse of those coalitions. So the ANC must be thinking very carefully if they think that they should go outside of the coalition. You're correctly to point out that if you can't agree on a budget, what kind of government is that? And I think it comes from our past. After the last 30 years, the ANC has been used to do the budget in terms of their own perception. It's